join me inside the cabin of the 2020 BMW X5 M Competition. This is yet another ultra-high performance in a string of ultra-high performance SUVs we've seen lately. I had its direct rival, the Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S, very recently. And importantly, both this and the GLE are traditional SUVs. They're not the coupe design ones. Therefore, they have more utility, more traditional SUV utility. So I want to see today how much of the X5 M Competition is just traditional SUV and how much of it is sports car performance engineering, because this does have the M Division's seal of approval on it, and they know how to make sports cars. That's what we're going to find out today. There it is. X5 M Competition. All new. Gobs of power. And before we get too deep into the exterior and interior walk around, couple quick things. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so you can get all the updates for the daily videos I post, the walk-arounds, the POV drives, the POV night drives, the live Q&As, and the reviews just like this one. If you want to watch those for the X5 M Competition and don't want to hear me talking anymore, feel free to check those out on the channel. We've also got a million others, so you can search in the channel search bar for any vehicle that piques your interest. And if you would like to support the channel, you've been a subscriber for a while and like what I'm doing, you can do that a couple different ways. I have a Patreon account that you can sign up for different perks at different contribution levels. And then we also have merchandise like t-shirts, MilesPerHr shirts. Grab one of those, rock it. And that will about do it for my announcements. So let's start up here at the front and talk about this X5 M Competition. So, styling distinctions between the competition version and the non-competition basically amount to wheels and black accents. And I will also address the M division distinctions between M and non-M versions of the X5. But let's talk about the competition distinctions first. So we've got these black accents for the grille, even blacking out the X5 and the M of the badge. Black accents for the air inlets on the side and the front lip spoiler pieces. Black for the lower air dam. Then as we'll see, black for this side garnish with X5M. Black door mirrors, black window surrounds, black roof rails, and then a black diffuser with, you guessed it, black quad exhaust ports. And more of that black X5 M Competition badging. But let's talk about the M stuff. What defines the M visually compared to the non-M models? So first of all, you're going to see these large air intakes on the side and the lower air dam. That's to suck in air and cool that twin-turbo V8 motor. In addition, this is it's not a pass-through. Thought this would be a pass-through, it is not. So it's not funneling air over the brakes, which some would argue it needs. And then specific to this model here, we've got the executive package, which means we don't just have LED headlights and daytime running lights. We have laser light technology, which means that the high beams can fire twice the distance ahead of the vehicle, and the lights are 10 times brighter than standard xenons or LEDs. They also look super cool with the blue finishes within the headlight designs. White is it's a tough color because it doesn't show all of the creases very well, but if we look at it from certain angles, you can see the creases on the hood and then flowing out from that over the front wheel arches, but certainly not as defined as some other colors that you can choose for this car. I like the white on black, but just can't see the body creases as well. Slight flare for these wheel arches, but I mean not a ton. The wheels themselves as part of the M Competition package, 21-inch front, 22-inch rear, wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. Great tires. And they're 295 front, 315 rear rubber, so plenty of traction. And we've got some non-carbon ceramic, just steel brakes, but good sized brake rotors with big calipers painted blue. That's the M Touch. The accents are always painted blue. Looking really good. I like the wheel design as well. Looks very futuristic. Also, fun fact about Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. I went to the launch of these tires, and one of the things they pointed out is that this side piece feels like velvet. I mean, how luxurious is that? Your tire has velvet on the side of it. Super cool. Already showed you that garnish over there. Like it or love it, it does break up the bodywork a tiny bit and accentuates the kind of character line that runs at the lower part of the vehicle. You also have a character line above it that branches off from here, just above the wheel arch, and runs all the way to the back with a sharp uptick right there, goes into the rear door handle. I like that. I like how things kind of flow here. This one kind of being odd in that the crease goes through the rear door handle but not through the front, but that's being picky. Here you can get to see the panoramic sunroof that we'll see better from inside the car. A slight flaring of the rocker panel here to help square up the stance. What do we think of the profile? I like it. I still go back to kind of the first and second generation X5. Not really first generation. That was kind of my favorite design for this vehicle. It's had to grow larger, has to make accommodations for extra space and a longer wheelbase and all that, but profile just doesn't do it for me quite as well as the original X5. I do think that the updates for 2020 are good ones though. Coming around to the back, my eyes are drawn to a couple things. This roof-mounted spoiler with kind of indent here looks pretty neat. Doesn't stick out crazy far. I've seen some of these that are just obnoxiously far out. This one doesn't do that, but has some style to it. Then we've got these LED taillights that look really sweet at night. I'll show you a clip from the POV night drive for that. And they're not oversized, they're not too tall, they don't come around too far. They extend towards the BMW crest on the tailgate, but don't do so with way too much taillight. We've got some indents here, but those are just reflectors. No pass-through for air, just design. Then down here with the black painted diffuser, I like the gloss black. And then these quad exhaust ports, and you can see inside those are real tailpipes, and good sized ones at that. These aren't just big finishers on small tailpipes. You can also down here see just how wide of a patch your tire is on the ground. You can understand how it does some of the things it does in corners that we'll get to during the driving impressions. And then that X5 M Competition badging. I like the rear end. Smooth, not overdone. And that's why white is perhaps good for this car. Some of the other colors show all of the lines and creases, and if you want to see that, that's great. If you don't though, and you want it to be more subtle, then white is very good. In short, I like the exterior design of the X5 M Competition. Is it better looking than the GLE 63? I don't know, you be the judge. I think so. I think I prefer BMW's design language on their SUVs to Mercedes-AMG's kind of more roundedness and not as much character. All right, but let's hop in the interior and see what we got going on here. Inside the X5 M Competition, we find a bunch of standard luxury goodies, but our tester here has a few extras. As part of the executive package that I mentioned has those laser lights, you get front and rear heated seats, front ventilated seats, front massaging seats, remote start, heated and cooled front cup holders, and I'm perhaps missing something, but all that for $3,600. Pretty decent deal. That panoramic sunroof is standard. The leather combo we have here is black merino with Midland B, they call it. These kind of caramel wheat colored inserts. What is Midland A? If this is Midland B, which looks pretty good, what's Midland A? I want to know. Terrible joke. These X5 M plates glow in the dark at night. Pretty rad. I like the seat designs. Perforation in the leather. Super aggressive designs to the seats. This is an M competition vehicle after all, and so much adjustability, truly. So down here, you can adjust your side bolsters, make them squeeze you tighter, or let you go free. You can tilt just the upper half of the seat on down. You can also extend your thigh supports. And that's all in addition to the standard, lumbar control, sliding forward and back, adjusting the rear angle or the angle of the seat back. So plenty of adjustability to find a comfortable driving position. Here in the door we can see one more option. Got the $3,400 Bowers Wilkins sound system. Excellent audio system. Coming from a non-audio aficionado. Got the carbon fiber inserts within the door with the cool design plates for the Bowers Wilkins sound system. Tailgate open and close here. Press once to open. Then you got to hold it for a sec, pulling up to get it to close, and you can stop it at any point. A feature I've enjoyed seeing on a few of these SUVs. More of the Midland B in the doors themselves. This is all leather with contrast stitching, very soft feel, really high quality stuff. Here is your massaging seat at 3 different levels, and when you press that button, then you can control from the infotainment what type of massage you would like. More contrast stitching and leather down here, so really they're not cheaping on anything. The leather continues down here. Got a cubby in there to store Lord knows what. More of the carbon fiber across the dashboard. Looking good. Carbon fiber on this centerpiece. Also looks really high quality along with the X5 M Competition badge. But you'll only look at that some of the time because most of the time you'll push that up so you can access the wireless smartphone charging in there. Additional USB ports. These are the heated and cooled cup holders as promised as part of the executive pack. We've got the red and blue and white of M stitched around the gear selector in leather. I love that. And the M embossed. Really nice details in here. Very, very nice details. Bunch of your controls. I didn't mention there's Alcantara on the sort of inner bolster part. This is leather. That's all leather. And let's hop in. Fire up. Steering wheel's coming at me. Power adjustments for the steering wheel. And a good amount of adjustability. Tilt and telescope to find a position that's going to be just right for your arms. You're not going to be overextended. Not too creased like that either. Got M1 and M2 buttons, so you just tab those buttons and all of your pre-settings will come up immediately. So instead of having to go in and individually calibrate each thing, there's sort of like individual modes. Oh, it did my gesture control. That's one of the things on this system. Not sure what radio station that is. But yeah, you've got some gestures that you can do on that pauses it, that unpauses it. Bunch of gestures. Thought it was gimmicky. I ended up actually using it after a couple days, so don't think it's gimmicky anymore. This is your digital instrument cluster. Too zoomed in. And some of this information can be changed with this BC button here, and it cycles through active horsepower and torque, G meter, radio station, your settings for your transmission, chassis, steering, and braking, what gear you're in. I'm in park. Average MPG, and speaking of MPG, it's not great. 13 city, 18 highway, 15 combined. So if you plan on taking long road trips in this, you will be filling up even if there's a lot of highway driving. That's what you get with a twin turbo V8. So that right side can change, this left side doesn't really, but the whole setup can be reconfigured when you enter in M mode. Press that and it kind of hunkers in on itself, and you've got the tach on the right and left. Interesting. And then your speed front and center along with the gear. That's when you've got the N mode going. Go into road, then it does this setup again. Forgot to mention a couple things with the M Competition pack. You've got this Alcantara headliner. Very soft, very nice. And these M seat belts. So you've got the blue and red stitch on the seat belts. Pretty nice. Steering wheel itself, very nice leather, and the contrast stitching with the M colors is on the inside. Steering wheel heating, that is standard on this car. And one other package we have here is the Driver Assistance Pro package, which adds adaptive cruise control and traffic jam assist. So traffic jam assist is effectively you can drive the car on the freeway up to 40 miles an hour without touching a thing. So you typically at higher speeds, it's going to want you to leave your hands on the wheel or at least touch the wheel every couple seconds. But with traffic jam assist up to 40 miles an hour, it's just assuming you're creeping along on the freeway and the last thing you want to do is just be holding onto the wheel. So as long as your attention is forward, so this camera is monitoring your attention, as long as your attention is forward, then you can keep your hands off the wheel. If you look away, it's going to beep at you and make you grab onto the wheel again. So we've got some controls for media off to the right, left, the adaptive cruise control, and all of these features. Lane keeping assist and lane departure warning are standard. You don't have to pay for those. And automatic emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert, and blind spot monitoring, those are all standard. Paddles, kind of dinky, I'll be honest. Some, nice plasticky stuff on the outside, on the back. Not as great in terms of plastic. The size of the paddles themselves, they're okay. Not exceptional, but they don't feel ultra high quality when you grab them. I wish they were all metal. And your windshield wiper settings are off to the right. Down below here we got the M on the bottom of the steering wheel. And this is all leather, so this is nice. Paddles not so great, but that feels metallic, or at least really nice plastic. All leather, all leather, all leather. Steering wheel heating button there, that's standard. Your headlight settings off to the left. This is your 12.3-inch infotainment running the latest version of BMW's iDrive infotainment. So it's pretty darn good. Very quick, user-friendly. You can use some of the gestures that I pointed out. There are a couple other gestures, and you can reconfigure the gestures. Communication, so here's where you connect your smart device, and it does have Apple CarPlay. Android Auto is still a no-go on BMWs for right now, but click on mobile devices. So once that's connected, you go back, phone and Apple CarPlay, and then you kind of can see your setup here. Takes over the whole screen. I like that. Some of these CarPlay systems, they just do half the screen or maybe even 2/3 of the screen. This one takes up the whole screen. so you can swipe it just like you would a normal infotainment. That is pretty cool. So that's CarPlay. If you want to come out of that, all you do is hit the home button here, and then you're back in the native iDrive system. So showed you the navigation, which is pretty good. Here is your setup, which you can access just by pressing the setup button. Doing so brings you this menu of changes that you can make to the engine, chassis, steering, and brake. And then when you enter a certain M mode, it unlocks the M xDrive. So instead of just being pure four-wheel drive, it makes a little more rear drive bias. It's not going to go full rear drive like you get on the M5 sedan, but you do get a little more bias. So each of these settings you can configure with your M controls as well. So like I said, you just press the button once and then twice to confirm, and then you enter all those settings all at once. Engine data, tire data, direction, traffic information. You can also move around these widgets as you want by pressing that button, and you can customize your home screen. So that's that. We get into the, let's see, media. We've got SiriusXM, some of your apps like Spotify are right there. And then we go into the car. Here's where the good stuff is. So in your M menu, you can configure each of the M controls. You can turn on or off your head-up display. Here we can see it's on. It's only some of the information it will show you. It'll show you a lot more depending on what you're doing in the car. Your instrument panel, configure it to have your speed limit monitor, so you can configure the display. What can we do? These are all the things we can do. Back to the car. Vehicle status, settings, driving information. So your sport displays, this you may want to have up if you're going to go to the track. See your oil temperature, how much boost you're making, pound-feet, horsepower, G-meter, that's all there in your sport displays. Then if you're going off-road, I don't know why you do that in this vehicle, but you can. I mean, at least not serious off-roading. Then you've got some settings to show you your tilts and angle in the car. A brain fart for a second. Energy flow, just for cool looking stuff. Trip data. Go on back. Then we can get into experience modes. So if you're feeling like you had a rough day at work and you just want to be in the most well-being vibe you can, you just hit that button and it's going to do a few different things at once. Adjust the temperature control, turn on seat heating, close the sunshade, except that it's not closing the sunshade for whatever reason. I guess it didn't want to do that part of the equation. You've got your executive mode, which does other things, ventilates your seat, protects you from the sun. Again, not actually happening right now. Changes the ambient lighting, of which there are a number of different settings, and it's very bright. I do like the ambient light settings in this car. So if you go into the settings, you can see all of your interior light controls, so all the colors that are available to you. And again, I'll show you a clip from the POV night drive, but you can see the ambient lights come across there, they go down there. You get some glow in here, some glow in the door panels from the light, but it's a good ambient light system. If you like your ambient lights, you'll like this car for sure. Back to the car, and that's pretty much the setup for the infotainment. So I really like the xDrive. I really like the iDrive. So many branded terms with BMW. I like the iDrive system, very user-friendly. The gesture controls sound gimmicky, but you end up using them after a while. There we go. And yeah, good setup there. Climate control down here, dual zone climate, and then in the rear seats, there is an additional climate setting. Ventilation for your seats are right here. For both the front passengers, standard, you've got your pre-selects for your radio. Volume is right here. We can do an audio test. Again, I have no idea what the radio station is that it shows. Wireless smartphone charging there. The heated and cooled cup holders, they glow blue or red depending on whether you're heating and cooling them. That's cool. Here's the key right here. You can take a look at it. Got the M colors on the side. And a good weight to the key. It's not the heftiest thing I've ever held, but good quality key. And then I showed you the M mode, the setup. This is your exhaust button if you want the louder exhaust. From yet another competition feature, you get an M Sport exhaust. So not only are they black, but they sound better. Auto hold feature, parking brake, downhill descent control. This, you can do all the same things that you were touching. So if you're driving and you don't want to be distracted, you can just use the control wheel. I prefer using this. And it's pretty user-friendly, and you've got some pre-selects here. And that's kind of your center console setup. Decent sized glove box in here with a USB-C port. So you've got the USB up there and then USB-C right here. How's that glove box? Reasonable size. What's the cup holder situation like? In other words, it's time for the large water bottle test. Will it fit in the cup holders of the X5? No, it just doesn't. How about the door pockets? They look pretty large. Oh, that's a win. That's a surefire win for the water bottle. Easy access. Center console. Nope, that doesn't work. Glove box, I don't care. You know what? It passes. It passes the large water bottle test because it fits in the door pockets. Way to go, X5 M Comp. Nicely done. Then last final features up here. You can check out these sun visors. Good thickness to those. Got your mirror. Pull off to the side, and they do slide. Thank you, BMW. So good amount of coverage there. And then we've got your visor controls. The close is a little slow, but the open's pretty quick. And then it's a true block out of the sun. Some of these have a bit of light coming through. This one fully blocks out the sun. So you can see the open's pretty quick. And then you can slide the glass piece to there or all the way back. And then you've got a wind baffle. And you may also tilt it. So that'll do it for the front cap. And let's check out the rear. On the way out, you can see the X5 M Competition kick plates. Then hopping into the rear, one thing I noticed is the door opens fairly wide, but not super wide. So you do have to approach it at a bit of an angle, but getting in is not a problem. And now that's my driving position at 6 feet tall. As you can see, I have, it's an okay amount of legroom. Not ultra generous, but it does have some foot pockets, so I can slide my legs under and reduce the knee angle, though not as deeply as I would like. Over here, you have, not just one climate control setting, you have two independent. So we've got quad zone climate control in this car. That is a standard feature. Rear seat heating, that was part of the executive package. And these sunshades, also part of the executive package. They are manual though, so you're gonna have to do some work in your car. More of these Bowers and Wilkins plates, more of that Midland B coloring and the texture, and all leather down here. So yeah, it continues the very luxurious vibe in the back seats. Pockets behind each of the seats. This center console reveals cup holders in here. Come on. There we go. Don't fight me. And then a storage pocket. One odd thing is that there's only a 12-volt socket in here. I'm not noting any other charging ports. So you only have those two. You only have a USB and a USB-C charge port. Nothing in the doors. Got some air vents. Good that we have ventilation, but only one DC socket in the back. Granted, this isn't the end of the world. You can get an accessory that will give you 2 USB or USB-Cs from that one 12 volt, but kind of a shame that they didn't include it in a vehicle at this price point. More of this Alcantara headliner, feels very nice. Speaker covers look high quality. See over here, your light settings, and just a plastic cover for the grab handles. And that is the rear seat setup. So comfortable, not overly spacious, and missing some charging opportunities. How about the trunk? So it's a split tailgate, which I love, so you actually have a place to sit if you want to on your tailgate, and it extends to a pretty nice area. So yeah, you can sit and enjoy yourself, kick your legs on the tailgate of the X5 M Competition. And then we do have poles to fold down those seats. Really appreciate that. Even though it's not power operated, the fact that you do have poles back here, meaning you don't have to go around to the sides and fold the seats manually, that's a big plus for me. Cargo cover stretches back to here, covering all your goodies inside. Nice carpeting on the floor, and then you pull this up and there's a hydraulic lift for your under cargo floor storage, and a nice area in there. No, you do not get a spare tire, but you do get storage. Then when you're all done with the trunk, by the way, there is 34 cubic feet of space behind that row of seats, and then if you fold them all the way down like such, you get 72 cubic feet of space, I believe. I may be off. I'll be corrected in the edits, but 72, so a good amount of storage. I mean, you don't have to just know cubic feet to know that's a big cargo area. You shouldn't have any problems hauling whatever small pieces of furniture to medium pieces of furniture you need. Close that up. And with that, it's time to rev up this X5 M Competition and then go drive it. Is anyone else feeling hungry for launch? Terrible pun. Great SUV. Goodness, this thing hauls. It hauls. 0 to 60, 3.7 seconds. Top speed 177 miles an hour if you get the driver's package that this one has. That is thanks to a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 making 617 horsepower in the competition version, just 600 for the regular one, and 553 pound-feet of torque, whichever one you choose. That engine is connected to an 8-speed CF automatic gearbox, which is so good. The shifts are crisp, they're clean, and they're right there whenever you want them. So the engine, transmission, and all-wheel drive combo are well sorted. But BMW doesn't just stop there. They go a step further. They work with the suspension. You've got an adaptive M suspension, not an air suspension like some of the rivals, but hey, one less thing to break. And it has active anti-roll bars. They worked with the steering to make it corner as well as I just experienced. They've done a lot here because everyone is buying SUVs. Everyone's buying SUVs, so instead of just giving up and just, or otherwise just sticking to sedans and coupes and saying, buy these things anyway, even if everyone's tastes have changed, they're putting all of their effort behind a new platform, this SUV. And from the time the X5M came out a number of years ago to this latest generation, we've seen improvements across the board, not just in the output and the sheer force of acceleration, but the preciseness at which it handles. They manage 5,000 pounds like it's defying physics. Truly, this is incredible. And now we're just cruising along the highway at freeway speeds, and I want to see whether this is going to be a good commuter, so I'm going to take it out of its Sport Plus engine response, and I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to engage the massaging seats with an upper body exercise. I'm going to adjust these bolsters, make sure that they are tight around me, so I'm comfy cozy, and I'm cruising. Visibility, great, because it's a traditional SUV box. It's not a coupe. You don't have a giant blind spot on your C-pillar. And the wind noise is minimal. The road noise is minimal. This is a luxury SUV. They did not give up any of that with the conversion to M Performance. And if I want to use it, I've got, because I have the package, I have the active driving assistant. So now, take my hands off the wheel for a short period of time, and it stays perfectly within the lane. Now, it wants me to check in with my hands, but this is just, it's astonishing how well these systems have come along, how far they've come. It's just holding itself perfectly within the lane. I'm going to come up to a curve right here, and we're going to see how it does with having to put in steering input. Took that as well as I would. That's amazing. And if I was in a traffic jam up to speeds of 40 miles an hour, it would just drive itself, and I would not have to check in with my hands. I would have to look forward, but this is crazy. They've done such a good job with that. So, okay, it's doing the luxury vehicle thing well. It's doing the SUV thing well. We've got the cargo capacity that we want. Space for passengers. Visibility's good. Wind noise is low. I'm comfortable. I don't know what to say. I guess they nailed it. I guess they've done really, really well here. The last thing, of course, is how well it handles a corner, and as I experienced in my POV drive, I'll throw some footage of that up, and as I experienced just at the beginning of the video, it definitely knows how to handle a corner. It uses all of the systems available to it to keep the body roll so minimal, to keep you feeling confident behind the wheel. It uses that all-wheel drive system intelligently. It doesn't just go to default rear-wheel drive. You can't do that like you can in the M5, so you're not going to be pulling power slides. But, I mean, the way it tackles a corner is very un-SUV-like. Let's put it that way. And so I have to give the X5 M Competition a thumbs up. From all measurable standpoints, it's doing the performance thing right, it's doing the luxury thing right, and I'm going to take this corner where it's going to do the cornering thing right. Wow. I mean, come on. That's crazy. Brakes are good, too. Brakes are real good. That exhaust note, though. Yes, some of it is piped in. Yes, some of it is artificial. But is it good noise? I think it's good noise. I don't think it's quite on the level of that GLE 63 AMG. That thing was just theatrical and fun. This is not that. This is a little too muted for me. I want more character, especially when I'm spending $115,000. Whereas this one's equipped $126,000. I want more from the exhaust. It's good, but I want more. Just crank up the volume, BMW. And now let's talk about the competition. So I already mentioned the GLE 63 S. So this one, $115,000 in the specs that I've listed there. The GLE 63 S, $114,000. I mean, negligible when you're talking over $100,000. 603 horsepower, so a little off the pace of this, 14 horsepower down. 0 to 60 is the same, 3.7 seconds with that all-wheel drive system. Top speed 174 miles an hour, so I mean, just off the pace of this one. And it's really between this and that going to come down to styling, I think, because the MBUX system is really good. It's right there with this iDrive system, maybe even a little better. The comforts that this one has, that has. I do think that as I, watched the review for this specific critique, but going over road bumps in that, I could hear them a little more, and it disrupts the luxury experience more than this one does. This feels a little more well insulated. I don't feel like I have the road noise that I did in that GLE. So it's going to come down to style between those two. Do you like the GLE 63's roundedness, bulbousness, puffed up chestness, and theater? Or do you prefer this one's sharp creases and grooves and the more modest, but sharper handling? Then there is the Audi RSQ8. That's $113,000. Boy, we're really changing up the price there. And top speed on that is 190 miles an hour. So that ties with the Urus and the Bentley Bentayga Speed for fastest SUV in the world. 0 to 60 for that is 3.6 seconds, so fractionally faster than this and the GLE. And its design is going to be divisive. Some people are going to like it. Some will like the sharpness and also the coupe design. I like it. I don't like it quite as much as the Cayenne coupe, but it looks pretty good. And then there is the Cayenne, the regular Cayenne, the Turbo S e-hybrid. 670 horsepower, so the most horsepower of the set, but also the most expensive, $163,000. So 50 grand more effectively than all the vehicles I've mentioned. That's a chunk of change. What you get for it, 0 to 60, about the same as this. The top speed is 184 miles an hour, so less than the RSQ8 and the Bentley Bentayga Speed and the Urus. But really, where the Porsche kind of claws its way back and where this kind of edges its way forward is in terms of handling. Because that GLE 63 could handle, but it didn't give me the feedback that I get through the wheel that I have with this BMW. I feel like they dialed in the electronic steering rack, such that I have a semblance of what's going on with the tires that I just didn't in that GLE 63S. It gripped and gripped and gripped and gripped, but it didn't have the driver engagement that this vehicle does and the Porsche does. So if we're talking about best of all the roundedness of the performance and the luxury and the looks and all that, I kind of feel like this X5 M Competition has it. It's not overly priced for the competition. It's not underperforming for the competition. The design is not ugly, certainly. May not be everyone's cup of tea. And if design is really important to you, you're just going to gravitate to the high-performance SUV that looks right anyway. But I don't really have any strong marks against this X5 M Competition. It's just very good. It's very, very good. And that's your takeaway. That's the X5 M Competition. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go